fun interview on astrology by Celeste. She's a friend of mine. So you can go check it out on her Instagram feed. But today I thought I would talk about why do people join cults? I think this is a question a lot of us have. And so I want to make something clear here. And it's something kind of different than most people think. People don't join cults, they join families, right? If when I think about, the group I grew up in, hey Gabrielle, nice to see you. The group I grew up in was a cult, but we didn't think of ourselves as a cult. We thought of ourselves as a religious movement, yes, but not a cult. Of course, we didn't observe what were the sort of the parameters of a cult, which now I can clearly see that is true. But people who are in cults definitely do not think of themselves in that way. And when we would go out and encourage people to join the group, right? What was being portrayed? Love, love, family, welcome, acceptance, right? These were all of the things that we would shower people with who would come to us, right? And an idealism, uh, the goal of service to God, the goal of helping your fellow man, the goal of making your life better, not being lonely, right? Always being surrounded by others with the same mission and goal. Coming into an environment of where you would be loved and cared for and protected, right? So this was how the group was presented to people. And when I listen to other people who talk about having joined cults, different cults, right? Some people say they joined a yoga cult or Heaven's Gate or whatever. All of those are the same principles that they talk about. They made me feel so loved. It felt like a family, right? So that's the initial environment, that's the initial impression that a lot of people get. Now of course you hear the people who don't join, right? Oftentimes their impression is a little bit different. They're like, ooh boy, those guys, they just seem so, like, they seem kind of creepy. They're just all over with the big love and the smiles and the hugging, and and they just they seem so brainwashed and just totally believing whatever it is that they were going for. So people who have that kind of attitude are usually kind of put off by that cult, right? But there's a lot of people who um, the research shows that people who typically join cults are good natured, idealistic, and often intelligent. It's the opposite of what most people think, right? Most people think just super damaged and drug addicts and all this kind of stuff or whatever, that they're going to be joining cults. But actually, people oftentimes from quite good families join cults. They're often inclined to see the best in people, to be idealistic, to see the good in others. And maybe their spidey sense isn't on high alert. They're more trusting. So, and this is the kind of people that cults look for, right? They don't want the troublemakers. They want the people that are good and kind and nice and all of this stuff. Now, so this is important to recognize. Now, I don't think that all groups or organizations are bad. And one of the big issues that I had was, how do we, in some ways, it's really beautiful to have this sense of community, right? Even people living in kind of a communal style with everyone helping each other and helping each other with childcare and cooking and stuff like that. When you think about what it's like to live out here, I wanted to have a baby, and I mean, now I have a boyfriend who wants to do that with me. But, before that, I was determined I was just going to finally have to go ahead and do that on my own. And I remember thinking about it and saying, well, that's going to be a lot harder than, within the cult, within the group. There was always childcare help. You could send the child to its group, right? So kind of a like a kibbutz style, where all the children had their own age groups, and they all had people who took care of them in those age groups, so you could drop your kid off and go do the work that you needed to do. And I was like, boy, trying to raise a kid by yourself in this society, you'd have to hire a nanny, which is really expensive. And I started thinking myself, like, is there a way we can sort of create a similar environment where maybe a bunch of single parents can share resources of a maid and cook and nanny and stuff to help ease that burden of trying to be a single parent. So there are certain principles involved in that are good. These are principles, like it says, it takes a village, right, to raise a child. But what are that? But the secret is, when does it become abusive? What are the abusive principles? And I thought to myself, if I can identify and define what creates the abuse, then maybe there's a way we can have some of the good without the bad, right? And so that is one of the reasons I wrote this book, right? Sex Cult None. That's one of the reasons I wrote this book. And that's one of the real major benefits of this framework that I created, is it helps you identify what are the abusive behaviors. Once you spot what the abuses are, you'll know, is this the kind of group that I want to be in? Is this a group that's positive, or does it have these underlying, oftentimes hidden principles embedded into it that are going to create abuse for me in the future? So that is that's the answer to the question, why do people join cults, right? They don't think of them as cults. They're looking for a family. They're looking for something to devote their life to. Sadly, oftentimes looking for someone to tell them what to do, tell them, what's right or wrong, or how to live their lives. So this also gives you the out for that, because it describes, gives you a clear framework and parameter so that you can make those decisions for yourself. It's really all about the anti-cult, right? How do we gain our own self-assurance, confidence, independence, and learn to really think for ourselves, to make these judgments for ourselves, so that we don't have to be sheep, we don't have to follow someone, and so that we can accurately identify. There's a lot of people that I listen to, that I learn from, and I learn great things from these teachers, but I don't take in everything that they say, right? I have my own analytical process and my own principles that I can look at what they're teaching and say, okay, this is right, this is accurate. Oh, okay, they kind of went off the rails there, right? So we'll do another talk about what are the red flags to look out for in cults. We'll do that next time, so that you guys know what to look for, right? Now that we've talked about why people join, next you want to know what to look out for. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll